Hey guys, welcome back. Yeah, so today we are going to talk about Angular 2 routing, and Angular 2 routing is nothing but a concept which almost all single page application framework follows. So in the legacy applications, like whenever there is a change in a URL, the application is always driven from the server end. So that means whenever a server and a URL on the web application changes, it the request goes to the server, and the server is responsible to to render the view on the browser. It can be a server driven app, but this particular concept, right? It has its pros and cons. So the consequences of these, but this particular, you know, example which I told, like for example, if this is some web application, I want to go to courses. You can see once I tap it over here, the entire page is getting refreshed. When I go to tutorials again, the entire page is getting refreshed. Maybe I'll go to login, there is nothing is getting refreshed. But these particular this means that this particular website which we are trying to see, there's not a single page application uh, SPA, right? So that means whatever URL changes which we are really looking out for over here is going to be handled by your front end framework, and that is nothing but your front end um, front-end framework, whatever you're using. It might be Angular.js or whatever we are doing right now, that is Angular 2. Yeah, that is it. And before doing, like, let's not really get into a lot of talking, because you might understand the concept very well. So so just to be very much precise about it, the URL changes are handled by the client itself. No server request is sent, and it really improves the user experience. The app is much more faster. There are not web pages reload that much, and there is a lot of things to be done, and which we can see in this particular tutorial. So let me just close this off. Okay, so I am here. I have just created a simple application over here to demonstrate uh, application, the routing. So there's only one change. If you can go into system.config, not this one, if you can go into TypeScript config, there is something called out directory. So whatever compilation is happening, that would go directly to my app folder, and my app folder is nothing but the place where my app is going to reside. And right, my app is going to reside, and the application is going to find for main.js, right? And yeah, and all my TypeScript files are going to be there into my source folder. And if you can see, there is a folder of components, inside which there would be again folders, and which would be holding the components files. For example, this is the base component which I've created, and it just renders base component as is, which is given over here. Let me just go ahead and start my application. If I go here and say npm start, okay, so my app would get start, and again it is waiting for the changes, right? And I'll just refresh it. If you can see, my application has been running on 8080 port, right? So this is the base structure, and which will be available for you guys at my repository, which I'll be sharing with you guys. Okay, so moving here, I would like to do some changes into my package.json. If you can see over here, okay, so supposingly, if at all you go for any kind of different route, like this is kind of thing which is happening. For example, I'll go to random. So this is kind of an error which I really don't want to go want to deal with going ahead. So actually what is happening here is it is not under so there are two routes which are happening. This particular thing is nothing but a static server which I've created. So I need to tell to my server like whatever happened, whatever URL has been hit, please go and hunt for this particular index.html which I've written over here as fallback. So how I'm going to do that is I'll just go to package.json, and yeah, till here I'm just telling it okay, just start my light server, and that is a static server, and that's going to be running at port 8080, and I'll just say distributed into history index, and I'll just say that it has to hunt for nothing but index.html. So once that is done, I'll just try, and restart my app over here so that this particular changes which I have written would get, you know. Okay, so now it is running, and if I just over here, okay, it is going to index.html. You can see there is no routing happening. It is no matter what URL you might type, you can type any chunk, it'll load your application. So that is what it would be really needed. So I'll be having this particular change at my end. All right, correct. Okay, so moving ahead, so this is nothing but my base component. Okay, so I'll just switch this thing off. Okay, so before going ahead to any of the any of the particular thing, so there has to be so what I'm going to do over here is I'm just going to create a different module which is going to be responsible for declaration of all my routes which I'll be writing, right? And that would be much more helpful for you guys to really access that particular files to see what kind of configuration has been written inside the routes, and moving ahead it would be much more simpler for you guys to understand. So what I'll do is the first thing is nothing but I'm just going to say I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to name it as app.route.ts. Cool. So once I'm done with it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start importing a lot of stuff. Okay, so first thing I'm going to import is from nothing but Angular core, and I want to create an ng module. So I'm going to import ng module over here. Okay, there's something more which I really need. Okay, but from where I'm going to do it, I'm going to I am going to create something called Angular router. I need some some modules definition from Angular router, and that is going to be something like routes. Yeah, this is something more routes which I'm going to get. Moving ahead, I'm going to take all my components which I really want to make. Okay, so I'll just copy the things out and paste it over here, so it might become very simple for you guys to even see the stuff. Okay, so if you can see, there is something like red errors which are popping out because it is not able to find out the components inside components directory, which we are going to make soon. So these are nothing but the components which we are going to really going to write it down. So moving ahead, we'll be writing these particular components soon. Okay, so moving ahead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a const over here, and I'm going to say is going to be something called router. It's going to be of type routes, which we have already included over there, and it's going to be of type array, and this particular array is going to, you know, have something. So like for example, I'm going to say, so inside this particular array there's going to be different, you know, there are going to be different routes or route definition which I'm going to write over here. So as of now, I'm going to firstly, just to demonstrate what are routes, I'm going to give definition for two routes over here. So let's see. So every route object has something called path. Okay, so path is nothing but what it is going to be called in the URL. So it is firstly, it is going to be about. Moving ahead, what component this particular route is going to load. So it is going to be about component, which I have already included, and I'm going to write my definition of. Moving ahead, I'm going to do something called path, and I'm going to say called services. And then I'm going to say what is my component. There's nothing but services. Nothing but service component. I'll just services component. Yeah. So this is it for now. So for now, I'll just remove these two things. Just keep these two things as my fallback. That would be much more easier for you guys to, you know, relate to. Okay, moving ahead, I want to create a module out of here. So I'm just going to write something called ng module decorator. So decorator is nothing but the metadata for this particular class. So it is going to be having something called imports, right? So every module has is written into app.module. It also has something called imports, like to see what kind of modules you have dependency upon. So this particular model is going to have dependency upon something called as my, you know, router module. So where is this particular definition? I don't have it as of now. It is there inside, you know, inside my Angular route itself. Okay, and then apart from that, there's something called exports, and my exports is going to be nothing but I'm going to exporting this particular class, and that is going to be nothing but, you know, router module. I'm going to just declare a class over here, and that class is going to be something like, I'm going to export it, this particular class. This class is nothing but router module. So I'll just close this off. Okay, so but there is one thing which is really left out over here is there has to be some way wherein you can tell this particular route module that, okay, I have declared these routes and these are to be, you know, handled by the router module. So how I'm going to do that is just after this I'm going to say something like for root, because this is going to be my root route, and I'm going to just pass my constant that is nothing but router. Okay, so now this makes it really complete. Okay, so now before going over there, I would really like to export even what all the constants of views, right? And these are going to be nothing but the entry of what all components we are really, you know, trying to create. So these are going to be nothing but my about component and my, you know, services component. So I'll just put them over here, and this is it. Before moving any further, I'm just going to create my, you know, about thing, but my about component and my services service services component. So we're going over here, I'm going to open this, I'm going to create one more folder over here, and that is going to be something called, okay, about. If you can see, there's something called about, inside which I'm going to be having something called a new file, and it's going to be about, okay, I'm going to save it, I'm really sorry, and there's going to be about dot component dot ts. Okay, I'm saving it over here. At the same time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one more folder over here, and I'm going to say something called services. Cool. And I'm going to say a new file, and then I'm going to say save. I'm going to say services dot component.ts. So that it's much more simpler. Okay, so moving ahead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to import nothing but component, and that is going to be from Angular core. Okay, I'm just going to declare a decorator, a component decorator, which we have already imported, and then I'm just going to say nothing but template, and my template is going to be having something like a string, and that string is going to be having something called, you know, strong, nothing but about wow component, and I'm going to export class which would be named, you know, which would be named as about component. Okay, I'll just, this is going to be something like about component, so I'll just, you know, save this thing off. I'll just copy this thing. I'll be a bit lazy so that you can save some time, and over here is going to be services component, and over here I'll just go and say nothing but services component. So if I go back down to my router, you can see now there is no red mark, so that it is getting all its definitions out there. So now it seems complete. So but once my router module is complete, but there has to be something which has to be done with your app modules as well. So you need to, you know, tell the base module of your application that yes, you have to also confirm to the rest of the modules which we are going to be working with, the feature module which we have done, which we have created, which is holding all the routes. So what we are going to do over here is I'm going to import my router module over here. I'll say import, and from where I'm going to do it from nothing but this particular folder, and that's going to be app route. And what all things I'm going to include is nothing but the router module, and nothing but the views which I'm going to import. So these is nothing but these particular, you know, the router module I'm exporting, and I'm also exporting the constant called views, which is going to be there over here. And I have to also declare, or I have to import this particular module which I have done with the browser module as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a comma over here. I'm going to paste the text thing off. At the same time, you also need something like, if at all, whatever application views or components we are going to be, you know, associating with this particular module, that means this particular app, the base module should be cognizant about it, should be knowing that okay, what all components which we are really, you know, working with. So I have exported these views, and I'm just going to put it over here, something like it. And yeah, I guess this is cool. Once I just, let me just refresh the stuff out, you can see about component is not a part of, I get some error, let me see. About component is not part of any ng module. Okay, cool. So I guess I have not, there has been some problem over here. Okay, so about component is not a part of any ng module, or the module has not been imported into your module. Okay, so it is telling me that there is somehow about component is not able to read it. Let me just see. Okay, so it is quite clear, and I'm just, let me just see whether I'm really missing out some things or not. I don't think so. I'm doing it. I really don't have any idea about what I'm missing over here. And okay, it looks quite straightforward to me. Let me just write it down again. Maybe I'm missing it. About component and nothing but services component. If you can see, that is nothing but over there. And when I come to this particular module, I'm somehow, okay, I'm not, this is what is happening. I have to put it into declaration and not into bootstrap. So once I do that and I refresh it, okay, so now that we are getting one more error, and that is nothing but, okay, so it is asking me to base href, right? So how can I do that? So base href, it is expecting a base tag which is to be there, which should be there into your application somewhere. So how I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my index.html. In my inside my head there should be one tag, and that is nothing but the base tag, and it should be having an href, and I'm just going to give it a slash. Let me see whether is it working again properly. Yeah, if you can see, my base component is getting loaded over here. Okay, okay, so if you can see into my route, right, over here I've created two routes, and that is nothing but about and services. So this is nothing but my base component. If I just go and say about, okay, okay, so it is going to be having something over here. Somehow it is not getting rendered because still it is not. Okay, cool. So yes, so I think so we have again missed out some part over here, and that is nothing but we have created our routes, but we are not telling your Angular application that where should you render this particular route inside your HTML. And the way how we have really, we have told our application that yes, I'm going to be, using this particular base into entire index.html. Your base command should also have something wherein, after this get message, there has to be something. Okay, so first of all, just to be, this is nothing but your ES6 syntax of writing a string, so that we can put white spaces over here, which is really difficult to do it with basic thing. Right, so over here you have to just say, you have to say nothing but you have to just write a tag wherein inside which, whatever component you're really writing out, that is going to be, rendered inside. So inside your ts over here, inside your html, right, there has to be something called router, something called, I'll just, there's nothing but something called router outlet. So I'll just put it down over here. Okay, nothing but router outlet, well, router outlet. So yeah, so now this is quite, you know fulfilling. So what I'll do is I'll just refresh this particular application, And you can see inside my base component at this particular part, I am also getting something called about component, right? If I go something like, services, if I just tap it over here, I should be getting my base component and my services component. So now this is how the basic, route is created. Okay. So moving ahead, just to make it, so as of now it is looking really very sad, right? So I just need to style this particular HTML so that it gives us a good uh, look. So inside my index dot you know HTML, I'll be following some themes from Bootstrap, and that is really not something which we are really going to look into deep. That is CSS. Just for the this is just for the this is just for the fact that we have to make our page look a bit presentable. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this particular CSS, that is nothing but from Bootswatch. This is nothing but a theme, and the theme name is nothing but darkly. Okay, that is it, and this is my index.html now. So if you can see over here, it has turned black over here. You can see. Apart from that, what I'm going to do is just going to create one HTML file for my base, and that is going to be nothing but a new file. Let me Okay, and that is going to be named with the name of the folder itself, and that is going to be nothing but base.html. And yes, I've created it. I'll just copy paste my code so that things look much more you know simpler and clear. So over here I'll just this particular thing. Okay, so over here, if you can see, I have a div that is nothing but a header bar, and the header bar is you know it is going to be having some links, and uh, this is going to be something like I'm going to route, whenever I want to go to my about page, I'm going to tap on this particular link. When I'm going to go to service, I'm going to tap this particular link, and this is where my container and my page really lies. Okay, so if you can see, there is something called router link, right? A tag has href, which also you can use, but when you start using href, let's just see. I just give href over here just for making you understand why router link is really important for us. And just let me link this particular to my app and my component over here. It should be nothing but template URL, and it should be nothing but it should be having not relative path but the absolute path, and it should start from nothing but this particular source folder. So I'll be just writing my source, and source, it should be followed by the components, and there with the base, and this is nothing but my base.html, and this is nothing but my base HTML, which I'm really seeing over here. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so this is it, and let us see how things are there working over here for us. Right. Let me cool. So if I just refresh this particular, I just want to go to nothing but you know my base app. Now it looks like, okay, there's nothing but the header of GM tools, and this is nothing but my about, and services is nothing but my link. If you can see, where for services I'm using router link, so if I just tap on it, I'm getting my service component inside this particular router outlet. But when I go into my about, if you can see, my app is getting reloaded and it is not working, and then it is coming out to about component. This is not how the SPA application really work. So just to let the application, the browser knows, yes, the route which is going to be happening, it is going to be handled by the client framework itself. This is how the router link directive, it does it. So you have, other than href, you have to just write router link. So if you can just refresh this particular application, and you can see services and about over here. Yeah, so now the basic infrastructure, the basic architecture of the route is really set, and we will see it. We'll see the rest of the details in next video. Thanks a lot for watching.